Hello, welcome to Viscount Leisure. I'm going to take you on a tutorial video around this 480 Elegance that we've got here, just to make sure that we know how everything operates, how everything connects to it, and how we use the van properly. So we'll start obviously on the outside of the van, just talk about what we do when we get to a site. Obviously the first thing we want to be doing is making sure that our caravan is nice and level. The reason for that, A, it's more comfortable for yourself inside, and B, all the bits and pieces inside the van do like to be level in order to operate correctly, such as the fridge. So first things first, need to level the van. Most pitches when you go to a site will be level side to side, hopefully. If not, you may need to get yourself some form of leveling wedge to roll one wheel up onto, to raise one side or the other, to make her level side to side. Then once we've done that, we then need to level front to back, and we do that using the jockey wheel that's situated on the front of the van, just around here. So what we can do is we can wind that up, we can wind that down. What that will do is raise or lower the nose of the van until we get ourselves nice and level. It's always worth having a spirit level. I always carry one of these around with me, okay? So maybe worth getting yourself one of those. You can put that on the A-frame inside the doorway to make sure that you're level front to back and left to right. That way it will work much better. Okay. Once we're level, we then need to put down our corner steadies. Now we've got one of those on each corner of the van, as we can see there and there. We've already obviously got these down because I've got this van run up. So what you'll do in your front locker, you'll see your manual winder, which goes into the hole there, and we wind those legs down till they take the steady off the van. What we mustn't do is try and level the van on these. All right, they are not designed to take that kind of pressure or weight, so they are there purely to steady the van, stop it moving around when you're inside it. Okay, so level first, then put down all four of your corner steadies, and then you've already got a nice basis in which to work from. You can get attachments for handheld drills, okay, which will do the same job, much quicker, much easier, so it may be worth looking into that. But you do have a hand winder in the front locker there. All right. Okay, once we've done that, what we're then going to do is just go around the van, just point a few bits out. Once you've got a motor mover situated there, we'll have a look at that, or when you pick your van up, okay, but I'll show you the controls and how it sort of generally works at the end of the video. This flap here, we have a 230 volt power sockets. That's a domestic power socket for powering things outside your van, whether it be in your awning or outside. Just bear in mind that that is only active, of course, when we are plugged in with our mains cable to mains electric. We also have here a locker that goes in up underneath our seats, just for ease of access, really, more than anything. Okay, so that is held open on this strut here. In order to close, we take the weight off of it and just bend that spring slightly, and then it should go back down again. All right. We also have another flap here, of course, and that is our external gas barbecue point. The reason we have one of those is if we want to power our gas barbecue outside without removing one of the gas bottles from our locker, we can do so from here. You'll need some gas hose, of course, to go to your gas barbecue, and in your book pack in the van you will find a little brass bayonet fitting that will clip into here. You dubly that clip onto the end of your gas hose, and that will clip into there. To remove it, we lift the collar up, and everything will pop out. Turning the handle will start the gas flow. Just turn it by 90 degrees. Okay. Going around the front of the van here, you can see I've got the front locker open. This is our gas locker. We know that. It is depicted by our LPG sticker on the front here. So this is where we must keep our gas, so that if for any reason there is a problem, people know where to come to remove any gas bottles if needed. I've got a test gas bottle on here at the moment, so you will need some gas to make it work. It is set up to run on propane at the moment. The van will work on butane. People tend to prefer propane because it's got a lower freezing point than the butane, so it can be used all year round without the worry of it freezing. When you are travelling, you do need to make sure that your bottles are strapped in, okay? So we have straps on each one, so make sure they're strapped in firmly and securely, so they're not banging around the place when we are travelling. And also you do want to make sure that they are switched off from the top of the bottle as well, okay? So I've got this open at the moment because I've got everything running, but you will just close it all down. The instructions are on the top. It is not difficult to do, but shut when we're travelling and strapped in. We've then got our gas hose, or our pigtail as we call it, going into the gas bottle. This goes into that gas bottle on an opposite thread, so it's not lefty loosey righty tighty. We go the other way round, and you will need a gas spanner, which I'll put in the van for you, okay, in order to tighten that up. So make sure that's nipped up nice and tightly, and then we get a nice seal on that bottle. That then goes through to our gas regulator sitting up the top here, okay? That will then turn the gas into the working gas pressure for the van and send it through to all of our bits and pieces that we need in the van. Okay, in here as well you've also got a hitch cover in there as well. And this is where you will find things like your water pump and your winding handle and all that sort of stuff when you pick your van up. Obviously we've got a hitch here, okay, for attaching to your car. We'll do a full hitch up with you when you pick the van up, but just a couple of points that we need to know. Handbrake is here. This is our jockey wheel that we've already discussed. Here's our power cable going to for our lights and our 12-volt system. Now this is running a 13-pin plug, so if you're getting a new tow bar fitted, that is what you need to be asking for. All right. If you have an old 7-pin plug or 2 7-pin plugs, you can get adapters that will go from that to the 13. So don't panic too much. Just make sure that you're prepared for when you pick the van up. If you're having a tow bar fitted, all right, we have an Alco stabilizing hitch head here, so you will need an Alco compatible tow ball. All right, so speak to your fitter to make sure that you're getting the correct tow ball put on the van, and if you've got an existing tow ball and you're not sure, just ask us and we can advise on that one. That's not a problem. Also, new tow ball, we need to, the actual ball itself, we need to make sure we're sanding off the paint on the ball itself, because we've got friction pads in here which squeeze against the tow ball. We have to make sure it's got something to bite onto, so a smooth painted surface isn't going to do it any good, so we need to make sure we're removing that paint, even though it seems pretty alien when we've got a brand new tow bar. Also, again, existing tow bar, if you've had to have grease on there for other trailer that you have on there, you do need to make sure you're thoroughly cleaning that grease off. Again, you don't want grease to get on the pads, because then it will just make it null and void for what it needs to do. All right, so a bit of brake cleaner and a rag, get in there, make sure it's nice and clean. That way it will do the job that it's supposed to do. Also have our ATC here as well, so we've got the Alco trailer control, so that will independently brake the wheels in an emergency and help keep the caravan in check. Again, so you'll need to make sure you have the right plug to make sure that is working properly with your electric system. Okay, coming round, we have a flue here, so a boiler flue, very much like you'd have on the outside of your house. Okay, so we have a boiler on board that will work on both 230-volt 240-volt electrics and gas as well. So when it's running on gas, it needs to be able to vent that. Okay, so that's where that comes out from. It's just there, nothing you need to do with it, just so that you're aware more than anything. We've got this is where our water happens from the outside of the van, just here with these 3 doors here. So when you first get to site, what you will do is you'll take your aqua roll, all right, you'll go and fill that up on site, bring it back, you'll then plug in your pump into the side of the van, depending on what sort of system you're using with the van. Now we've got an onboard water tank with this van, which we can use, and we've also got we can use the aqua roll direct to our taps and our boiler from this flap. So depending on what you want to do is where you will plug your system into. All right, I've got it set up for going to direct to tank. You can see it says that there. Okay, and this one says direct to tap. All right, so this one's going straight to our tank, so this will top our tank up when we select to do so inside the van. I filled it up already, and then I filled up my aqua roll so that I've almost got double the amount of water that I would be able to hold if I just had the aqua roll. I would suggest dropping this pump into the bottom of the barrel first and then plugging it into the side, as we have a semi-rigid pipe going down, and it's quite easy to crack this casing if we try and bend things around. Okay, so do make sure that we put that in the barrel first and then into the side of the van. Once that's done, we can then start turning things on inside, but we'll look at that when we get in there. We also have an external shower point here as well. There's the fitting for it there. All right, it plugs into the side, we take the cap off, and then that will plug in. So we can, from our water tank, have an external shower point for washing our boots, dogs, etc, etc. All right, so you do have that option there as well. I'll put this in the front locker so you'll know where to find that. Okay, right, this is where all the sort of power comes from. We've got 2 different aspects of power. We have a 12-volt system running from a Leisure battery, and we have mains power, which is coming in the form of our mains lead coming from some kind of post on site or wherever you'll be plugged into. So the 12-volt Leisure battery side runs the things like your lights, your water pump, your panel, your fridge panel, things like that. And then, because we can run the van without mains power, and the gas will then fill in where the mains doesn't. So this battery is staying on the van because we do have a solar panel on the roof of this one. So we have to, what we don't want to have is, because that's drawing a current, is have 2 live terminals, and if they touch, we can short things out in the van. So we're leaving that battery on there. Okay, so that is what that does. And then you can see we've got a mains lead coming into the side of the van here from our post over the way there, and that is then providing us with mains power, 230-volt electric into the van, which will run our domestic plug sockets. It will run our boiler, fridge, and things like that, because a lot of these things in here are dual powered. So that's plugged in there. What I would say with my mains lead is, again, you will need one for a start, and secondly, if it comes on a drum and it's in a big curl, we want to make sure we're taking it off that drum when we're using it. They do draw a lot of current, okay, can get very warm, and we have seen them melt bits and pieces like that. So flake it out nicely, even if you do it under the van so it's not untidy, but don't have it coiled up on the floor in a nice circle, because as I say, it will get warm, especially on a hot day. So that's those two sides of things. Again, we'll look more detail as how they affect things inside the van once we get in. Fridge vents are here. We've got a Dometic fridge on board, okay. Uses heat in order to cool, so what it does is pull the cold air in from the bottom, so I can't feel anything there, and I can feel the warm air coming out from the top there. So that's what they do. Again, nothing you really need to worry about with these, okay. You can get winter covers for them and things like that. Again, that's up to yourself, but anyway, that's what they are for. Nothing you really need to do with them whatsoever. You can see we've got a bit of pipe on the floor there. Again, you'll find that in your front locker, so that's a waste pipe. So whereas we've got our aqua roll for our fresh water, you will also need some sort of waste container. So most people have what they call a waste master, which they lay down on the floor here, cut that pipe down to the lengths you want it to be, and we've got two exits here. Okay, one is exiting from our kitchen in essence, and one from the shower. Okay, and we drop those into our waste master, and that will then collect the grey water coming out of our van. Okay, fresh water going in over there, grey water coming out over here, and then once that's full, obviously you take that to your service point and you empty that off. Also, that's that kind of thing really. Then we've got two doors here. Now these are to do with our onboard toilet. So we've got a cassette toilet on board, okay. Two flaps, one is to do with our flush and one is to do with where the cassette is that carries the waste, okay. So let's have a quick look in there. So as I say, this is for your flush, so you'll need some pink chemical to go in the top here, okay, and you mix that with a bit of water. You'll need to make sure you've got some kind of receptacle to put it in there with, whether it be some kind of watering can, something along those kind of lines, okay, just to make sure that we can fill that up. But the directions for that are on the bottle of stuff that you buy. We then also got our toilet cassette here as well, okay, so a Thetford toilet cassette situated in here. All right, there we go. So that pulls out just like that using that handle. We then take it to our service point on site. We've got an extendable handle here, so we can wheel it to our service point if we need to, because there will be a dedicated chemical toilet disposal area, okay. Then what we do is we move this out. Once we're there, take the cap off. We then press this orange button here, and what that does is release the air pressure inside the unit to make it easy to empty, and we then empty it down the chemical toilet. Normally there's a hose there as well, so I suggest putting a bit more water back into it, giving it a shake around, emptying it back out again, just to make sure we're getting rid of all the remnants that's in there, any toilet paper and all that kind of stuff. On that note, I would use caravan toilet paper, not regular toilet paper. It does break down much better, okay, so just bear that in mind. Right, once we're done, we put some blue chemical back in here. Again, you'll need some of that, and what that does is break down all the bits and pieces inside it. It makes things smell nice and stop it being unpleasant. Okay, that then slots back into the unit, clips into place, and we're ready to go. When we're not using our van or we're leaving it in for any period, I'd always make sure we empty our toilet and also drain down our flush tank. We drain down our flush tank by using this little hose here, which just clips down, take the stopper out the end, and then we can drain that down, all right? Okay, coming around to the back of the van, we have two, the fittings for a bike rack, should we wish to put one on for a Thor bike rack. So that is possible to do. Just bear in mind, if you're putting weight on the back of the van, you do need to make sure we're balancing that out with the front of the van. Okay, so just bear that in mind if we are adding weight to the van. Okay, that's everything there really. You can see we've got our warning light outside there as well, that's on at the moment. The door going into the van will pin back. We've got a magnet here, so that will hold it back so it doesn't bang around in the wind, okay. And the lock works as you would expect a lock to work, to be honest with you. When we're inside the van and we want to lock from the inside, we push the handle up. That will then lock the van and stop people from being able to come in from the outside. Bin is situated on the door as well, of course, and we've got a pane glass window there as well, or plastic glass window I should say, and we have our blackout blind for that just there. Right, in we come. So we have attached everything to the outside of the van. We have got water in our barrel, okay, and we have our waste master and everything set up, and we have turned on our gas. So the way we should have left our van is with all the drain valves open and all of our taps open. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here, we're going to turn off all of our taps, all right, including in the shower, to make sure they're all off. That way when we turn the water pump on, everything doesn't start spurting out with everywhere, okay? We're then going to come down here to, I've got this cupboard door open as you can see, all right, but in here we've got these two yellow switches, okay? These are our system drain valves for A, the boiler, and B, our onboard water tank, okay? So we want to make sure that they're both down, not up like that. That's how they will be when you get in the van. So just drop them down, okay, and make sure they're like that. That way, again, when we start pumping water around the van, it won't just fall directly to the ground, all right? It will, yeah, it will stay in the system how we want it to be, okay? There are some instructions as to how this all works, because we've got two ways of doing things. We can either use our water tank or just our aqua roll, all right? So we can change things around by using this white toggle switch here, but it does tell us here how to do it. When it's in the downwards position, it is from the external supply, okay, and sorry, the internal supply, and when it's across like that, it's coming from the external supply. So this one here, when you need to make it look like that if you want to use an aqua roll, and it needs to look like that if you're using the onboard tank. So once that's all turned, what we then want to do is come to our panel here, all right, and we're going to turn it on by using this button here with the on button, funnily enough. Okay, this is our main panel for the van, okay, so we have lots of bits and pieces we can look at on this, but the first thing we want to come and do is turn on our water pump, which is this one here, okay. That way we can then start to fill the system up with water, okay. So what we're going to do is we want to, if we've got our aqua roll out there, we want to fill up our water tank. We come to here and we use our menu toggle button, okay, until we see it's a tank fill, which is off at the moment. Then if I press this middle button, which is kind of the enter button, press that one there, fill tank is on. That will then start pumping the water from the aqua roll into the onboard tank, all right, and then it will switch itself off once it's full, all right. And then once you start running out of water there, we can then do exactly the same thing, okay, and go and refill it again from the aqua roll should we need to, okay. So that's how we fill the tank, all right. If we were just doing it from the aqua roll, we wouldn't need to do that. We would just then do the next step, which is to purge the system. So we would turn on our water pump, and I'm going to come to my tap here, all right. Firstly I'm going to do it from the hot leg. Now I've already done this because I've got the van running up, but we'll sort of simulate what you would do. Turn the tap on, okay. What you will get, because what we've got to do is from that water tank, it's got to go to our boiler, it's got to fill the boiler up, it's got to push all that air out the system and out the tap, all right. So you'll get a little coughing and spluttering, all right, and it will take a little bit of time, all right, but once you get a steady flow of water like that, you can lock the tap off. Do that in here, do it in the bathroom, do it in the shower, get all the air out of the hot leg of the system. Then come back, do the cold leg of the system. Again, this will be much quicker because we're not filling a boiler up. All right, so we're going to do that. We are then going to do the same in our in the bathroom as well. Okay, that way, whenever we turn the tap on, we should have direct access to water and a nice steady flow. Okay. Then what we're going to do is start turning other things on in terms of our heating and our hot water, because we want to start heating that water that's in the boiler. So to do that, we're going to come to our Audi panel here, okay? So that's situated on the wall just here, and it is in its standby screen at the moment, which tells us that we're plugged into mains, so we have access to mains power there. You can see the little plug. It also gives us our internal temperature as well. Press the menu button to wake the screen up, okay? And then we've got a few options, all right? Pretty easy to use this panel, to be honest with you. So internal temperature of the van is the top one there, so it's touchscreen, so I can turn that up and I can turn it down just by doing that. All right, so if I don't want heating on at all, I'll take it all the way down to 0. Then I've got a picture of a shower, so that's telling me it's my hot water. So I've got 3 settings with that. I've got off, I've got on, which will heat the water up to about 60 degrees. I've also got boost as well, and then what that will do is basically prioritise the hot water over the heating and heat it right up, all right. It will then drop back to its normal setting. I think it's after 20 minutes, don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. We then need to decide how we're going to run things in the van, all right? So as we know, we can either use mains electric if we're plugged in, or we can use gas if we're not plugged in, or actually we can use a combination of the both. So at the minute I've got it all running on 1 kilowatt of power. I can do 2 and I can do 3 kilowatts depending on what power I've got access to and what else I'm running in the van. For instance, if I was using 3 kilowatts of electricity here, I had my fridge on, I was using a hairdryer, I had the TV going, what you're going to find is you're going to keep tripping out your trip switches, which are under here. All right, we'll have a look at this down here in a minute, and you'll have to keep resetting it. So we don't want to be doing that, so we balance it out by changing the wattage or the kilowattage that we're using. All right, so just you'll get used to that. Some sites will tell you sort of what the best power output there is, but at the moment here I've been using 1 kilowatt. It's nice and warm in here, everything's running properly, the hot water's hot. It will just take a little bit of time longer to get there. Obviously the more kilowattage we're doing, the more efficient the system will run. But if I am while camping or I don't have access to mains power, I can turn that off completely, so I've got no electric running there at all, and just press the flame there. That will then light my boiler on the gas side of stuff and heat everything up in that regard. All right, but as I say, I can also run it with 3 kilowatts of power if I wanted to, and the gas. So if it was freezing cold outside, I really wanted to heat the van up quickly, I had enough power, I could run it on both until I was nice and warm, then I could turn my my gas off, and I could potentially turn down my electric as well. All right, so the main things to worry about here are how warm is it in the van, top one. Is my hot water on, off, or on boost? Am I using electricity or am I using gas? And if I am using electricity, how much of it am I using? There is also another settings screen here as well, so you can set priorities and timers and things like that. Not going to go into that now, we're just talking about the basics. All right, there is a book pack in your manual in your book pack there, so you can go into some more detail should you wish to, and again there's plenty of videos and things about that sort of stuff as well. All right, we'll just quickly talk a bit more about this panel up here. So we know we've turned it on, and we've turned on our pump there. All right, and we've also talked about filling up our tank by using the menu here as well. Our awning light outside is switched on and off by the top button there. Okay, we also have our main lights here, which I can turn on and off, as you can see there, by pressing that button. And then I can also dim the other lights as well by using this button here. So you can see my dimmer's on 100%. So I can, if I then press the enter button, I can go 5, 10, and as you can see, that will turn those lights back on, and I can dim them as I wish to. All right, so I'm gonna put that back up to 100%. There we go. Again, there's other menus we can go into. Up the top here, it tells me that the solar panel is working because I've got a little picture of a sun. Tells me I'm plugged into mains, I've got a little lightning bolt, and tells me I've got a leisure battery connected as well. Okay, and also the state of my leisure battery is here as well. All right. Right, so I've got AC limit, fill tank, solar to the vehicle, so it tells me how my solar panels working. It tells me my leisure battery is good, so it's running at 12.9 volts, and there's lots of other settings I can go into as well. All right, but the main ones are my lights, my water pump, and also my tank fill as well is an important one to know there as well. All right, so you see off, we can just turn that on, and I can turn it off. Okay, that's kind of the heating and the hot water side of stuff in terms of getting it set up. We'll have a look, as we looked at this Sergeant unit down here, didn't we? So we'll have another quick look at that just so we can see. So this is the power supply unit, the PSU. All right, so two sides to this, 12 volt this side, and our 230 volt, 240 volt this side. Okay, so this is more like what we have at home, and this is what we have in our car, I suppose is the easiest way to describe it. All right, so we have a main system shutdown button, okay, which will isolate the 12 volt system, so you can totally shut that down from here. So if you're struggling to get everything working in the van, it may be a question that you haven't turned it on from here. All of our blade fuses are situated in here, and again it tells us what they all do on this sticker on the wall here as well. If we're plugged into mains, we need to look at this side as well. You want to make sure that your battery charger is turned on, and also your heating and hot water is, so make sure these are illuminated, otherwise you won't have your battery charging, or you won't have any heating or hot water. Okay, And then we've got breaker switches, a bit like we have at home. All right, again, they tell us what they do here. This one is for our sockets, this one's for our heating system and our extra sockets, this one's for our fridge and battery charger. So if anything trips out, this is where you would come to reset the trip. This one here, the big one, is our main RCD coming in. So this is where the power first hits the caravan. Good tip here, really. You've got a little test button there. So this is a good way of testing to see whether the power is actually here. So if you're struggling to get things working on the main side, 9 times out of 10 it'll actually be where you're plugged into, not the unit itself. So you can test that. So by pressing that yellow test button just there, if nothing happens here, this doesn't trip out. There's no power coming to this unit. So the problem probably is where you're plugged into, because they also have trips as well. Or you may not have your lead plugged in properly, or something like that. If I do press that and this drops and falls, and that tells me that we do have power coming to the unit, so we know all is well in regards to getting power to the van. All right, so that's our power unit. All right, pretty simple. Again, it's how it all works. What everything does is on there as well. Okay, so look around the rest of the van. Okay, so we'll start just here. We've got a carbon monoxide alarm here and a smoke alarm on the van as well. Okay, so we'll just test it there working. Yeah. Along with my eardrums, but yes, happy days. There we go. 2 domestic plug sockets here, again only available when we are plugged into mains. 12-volt socket there, and this is for our TV aerial, so we could have a TV on the side here as well. Okay. TV aerial is situated up here. Okay, so it is a what we call a directional TV aerial, so it's in a downwards position at the moment. When we get to site, we want to use the TV. What we do is undo the locking nut. There we go. That was on nice and tight. And then we can raise it up above the van, and then we just do the locking nut back up again, and now that is above the van to give us a better signal. Okay, not forgetting, of course, we want to make sure we bring that down when we're finished with it and we're traveling. We have a little handle here as well, so what we can do is change the plane of the aerial to try and get a better signal. All right, so that's what that does. Underneath it, we've got a little digital TV amplifier. All right, the on-off switch is on the top. Okay, and then it's on maximum gain at the moment. I would leave it like that. You can leave this on as well, as it will turn off with your main panel anyway, but if you're worried about the draw on the battery, if you're off grid, you can turn it off from the top there. Okie dokie. So you've got our wine cabinet here as well, and lots of storage. All right, I just like to open everything to make sure I'm not missing everything. We have individual reading lights around the van, which are individually switched. Okay, and you can also dim them by twisting the back of them. Okay, so we can turn those on and off. Plenty of overhead storage. Good. We also have obviously these quite nice looking lights here, and we have our light switches on top of here, which do our this one does our uplighters. And this one does our, we have a little courtesy light down here. All right, so that's what that switch does there as well. If we're talking about blinds, fly screens and stuff like that, they all work in the same way, apart from the skylights on this van. So the way that works is we open 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then we opened it to the desired openness, if that's the right word, and then we've got these little screws at the top here, so we just tighten those up and that will hold the window in place. Then when we want to shut the window, we just slacken them off, okay, and it will drop shut, and we can lock it again. We can also lock it on a breather mode, I suppose is the way to describe that, so we can leave a bit of a gap. So if you were leaving the van for a bit of time and it was a really hot day, you still want to have some air circulating around the van, you can lock them and still have some air but still have the security. But I'd always suggest, for any kind of long period of time, make sure they're locked properly, and then you're not going to have a problem. Blackout blinds, also curtains as well, of course, and any window that opens will also have a fly screen as well, which we can do half and half or whatever we want to do. So that is all of that. All the other windows work the same way. Apart from this one here, of course, we just have a blind on this one because we have it doesn't open, so it doesn't have any fly screens. Overhead light there is switched off from here. Again, we also have another TV socket here, a USB, 12 volt, and 2 domestic plug sockets here as well. You'll also see just here we were talking about leveling the van. You do have a spirit level built into the van here as well, so you can see whether you're level. We're just about there here at the moment, so that's perfect. Coffee table that pulls out, okay, and then that also just lift up and push back, and that will put away. All your book packs are here. You'll find those in the top drawer here when you pick the van up. All right. Nice soft closed drawers as well, which is a nice little touch. We also have another light switch just here, which does these nice little front lights as well. Okay, so they're there. And then of course we've got our main bed as well. So I'm sure you probably know how this works, but just to recap. Pull that all the way out, and then we use the back sides of these cushions here to sleep on. All right, so what I would always suggest is flipping everything over. These bolsters that we have here, if you flip that way so the bolsters are against the wall, both sides, that way we've got a nice flat surface all the way across. Okay, and then all we do is push these back and put all of our cushions back. Excellent. Just go through these cupboards here as well. Our stereo is situated in here. All right, so it's like a car radio really. On-off switch is the source button, which is just here, so I can hold that down and turn it on off. We've got Bluetooth audio, but we can scroll through using that button. FM radio, aux in here as well. So we've got plenty of different ways of playing our music through in here. Skylight opens by pressing this button and pulling the whole thing down and backwards, and we do have also some other settings that we can drop it into, like so. But don't forget, of course, if you do have a skylight open, before you start driving off or going anywhere, make sure that you've shut that as well. We have an extendable worktop here as well, as you can see. Okay, so that goes up like so, and then we just drop these down and that then sticks back down to the side there. Going into the kitchen then, we've talked about water, so we know we've got our mixer tap here. So we've had the hot water on, so this should now be nice and warm. It does get very hot. I mean, I can't even touch that now, so do bear that in mind, but of course we can mix some cold into it as well, which is useful when we're doing our washing up and whatnot. Light switches here, does our backlighter there. Okay, and then we also have our downlighters there as well. Two 240-volt sockets, so for our kettle, toasters, coffee machine, air fryers, whatever you want to use. All right, so that is situated there. We have cupboards up the top here, which will hold plates and cups and things like that. We've also got this here as well, which is the solar panel regulator. All right, so the charge controller for the solar panel. Nothing again you need to do. It just tells us that it's actually working, but that is regulating the power from the solar panel to down to our leisure battery. Microwave, 240 volt, can only be used when we're plugged into mains, so bear that in mind. I won't teach you how to use a microwave. Or maybe I should. As I say, but it can only be used when you're plugged into your mains, okay? Right, let's talk about the cooker. When we're travelling, you want to make sure that you're keeping this glass lid down, okay? Also, I was about to say actually with your microwave as well, this plate that's in here as well, you'll find that in your book pack when you pick the van up. You also don't want to be travelling with that in there either. All right, it's quite heavy, can open the door accidentally, dent units, dent floors, smash all over the place. So just anything like that, take it out, stow it away. Again, keep this down as well. We have seen these shatter where people have left them up and they bounce around, they come out of the clips here and then end up on the floor. 3 gas burners, 1 240 volt. Okay, so this is usable when we're plugged into mains. These are obviously usable if we've got gas and it's turned on. So works pretty simply. If we get that wet, we can just make sure that's working nicely. So this one turns on from just over here. All right, so that should evaporate quite quickly. We all know how to use a hob, hopefully, so the igniter is just in the middle here, and what we do is we turn it on, hold it down, press the igniter, and there we go. It's always good once you have a, there you go, you can see that's evaporating off there, so we know that's turning on and heating up quite nicely. Once you turn your gas on, it's always good to come and light a couple of the hobs, leave them on for just 30 seconds or something, just to, again, like we did the water system, get all the air out of it. It does the same with the gas system and helps when we're trying to light other things on gas as well, so it's worth doing. So that's your hob. Separate grill, again, that lights in the same way. We can see that we have the grill is just this one here. Turn it on, light. There we go. In our oven. Again, turn it on, hold it down, press the igniter, and there it is. Just set it to the temperature you want, but do bear in mind it's not a domestic oven, it is a caravan oven, alright, so it may take longer to cook things. Alright, so just keep that in mind. Another storage cupboard down here. There is a plug down here. That is the plug for our the 240 volt hot plate. All right, so that's what that's for. We also have a little pantry in here which pulls out, and we also have our chopping board sink cover and also a draining board which will go next to the sink as well for when we're doing our washing up. Also, gas isolation switches are down in here as well. Not that you'd ever really need them, but if you do need to isolate one of the units over here, that is where you will come to do it. Cutlery drawer and our fridge. So let's talk about the fridge for a second. Three-way fridge works on mains power when we're plugged in. It will work on gas when we are not plugged in, and it will also work on the battery symbol here, which means 12 volt, but not from the battery here, but from the car when you're driving. All right, so you can maintain a temperature in the fridge when you're driving. Just bear in mind it's not powerful enough to chill the fridge down from warm, but it will maintain it once it is cold. So if you do want to, if you're doing a long journey, you want to keep stuff in the fridge, you will need to chill the fridge down first, and then turn it onto the 12 volt setting for your car. On-off switch for the fridge is this one here. All right, so it's on a separate loop to the main panel, because obviously we'll have it all off in here, but we may want the fridge on when we're driving. So we can turn it on and off from that button there. We also have the fridge temperature, so we just press that one for that. It's always best just to have it off of full. For some reason it switches between its different settings better when it's not on full. Can't explain why, but it just does seem to work better that way. Still nice and cold at that temperature, don't get me wrong, just seems to work better in that respect. We then have our alarm button here as well, so if something's not working properly, like if I press the battery one now, there we go, that's alarming because I'm not attached to a tow vehicle. So then I'm going to switch that back to mains power. Again, if I don't have mains power, I can press the gas button, and then you'll hear a tick, 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 and then it will fire up on the gas side of things. All right, so that's now running on the gas. Press the button on the top here, opens the fridge. We've had this on overnight, as I say, so it's lovely and cool. The freezer box section, you can probably see the ice gathering on the back of there, so that freezer section is working very nicely as well. So that is how our fridge works. There is also a vent on here as well, so if we press this and pull it out, we can still lock the fridge with it slightly open, so when we're not using the van, we can air the fridge. Okay, let's have a quick look in the bathroom. What we will quickly talk about is this vent here. So we've got an omni vent, which can use as an extractor or as a fan, so it goes in both directions. Again, it has a blind. All right, so we can shut that completely at night time. To open the top of it, we twist this here, and that will open the dome on top. All right, like so, and then we can turn it on by pressing the on button. And as you can see, we can either have it going out or in. So I can speed that up. You've got 3 lights going each way. All right, or I can go the other way and have it blowing air into the van. So that will stop and then go back the other way. There we go. And then I can turn that off from there. Then what I'm going to do is shut this down. Not forgetting, because it's difficult to see the top of that one, so don't forget. Especially if it's raining or something, you want to make sure that's shut. Okay. Okay, into the bathroom. Because we've got a wet central heating system in here, you see we've got our heated towel rail here. Okay, so that is where that is. And we have our toilet. Now we looked at our toilet from the outside. Our flush tank is situated in the top here, and then our cassette is situated in the bottom. Simple as that, really. Use the toilet in the normal way, apart from it does spin, so just be careful. Don't worry, it's all nice and clean, so we'll have a quick look. We use the toilet in the normal way. We press the flush button. Okay, nothing in there at the moment. That will then fill allow some water to come into the bowl. And then we have our gate opener here, so we push that to one side. Excuse me, to one side. That lets everything drop down into the cassette and push it back the other way. Okay, making sure it goes all the way across, because that's what's creating the seal, and then that keeps everything out of harm's way. Again, you want to make sure that's all the way over, because if it's not, you won't be able to remove the cassette from the outside either. So if you're struggling to take it out, don't try and force it. It's probably because that's not fully shut. All right, it happens quite a bit. In our wardrobe, all of our carpets are there, as you can see. Okay, and we also have our Audi fluid header tank. All right. Nothing you really need to do with it. It's in between its maximum and minimum. It will fluctuate as the heating's working. It will gargle away and do a few other bits as well. So just so that you're aware, that's what that is. Mixer tap here, all right, very like in the kitchen as well, and our light switch for everything in the bathroom is just down here. Speakers in the bathroom as well for the stereo, so you can sing along in the shower. We have a little thing that pulls down here for hanging wet bits and pieces on, so we know how to use a shower. This door here can be held back by using this here. All right, that just stops it banging around, all right, when we are on the road. Okay, so and you can pull that out and then it will work quite freely. All right. Another slot in here for bits and pieces, but also our freestanding table sat in there as well, so that's our dining table for in there, or of course outside or wherever you want to use it. It can be used anywhere. Okay, that is sort of it really for the workings of the van. But what we'll do is we'll sort of pretend like we've been on holiday, we've had a nice time, and we'll drain the van down and sort of winterize it, if you will, like we would at the end of a holiday. So first things first, what I'm going to do is come start turning things off. All right, so I'm going to turn my main panel off here. All right, I'm going to turn off my Audi system here by holding that down. Okay, I'm going to come turn off my fridge. Now you might not do that if you've got stuff left in the fridge. You might want to put it onto the battery setting, but don't forget once you finish with it to turn it off, because that will be drawing off the battery, and then when you want to come and use your van next time, you'll have a dead leisure battery. Okay, so that's all of that down. Then we want to start draining stuff down. So we're going to come here, open this up, and we're going to look at system drain. All right, so this is how you want it to look. So we want this one here across, so that's this little white one here, that's to that side, and then we're going to open both of these. Okay, so that's how you want it to look when we're draining the system down. Winterization and storage, it does tell you how to do everything here as well. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of advice there as well. Now while that's draining all down, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to come and open all of my taps in between hot and cold. The reason I'm doing that, and if you can get in the habit of doing it every time, then you'll never have a problem. You'll minimise your problems, I should say, because if you get some freezing weather, there's water stuck in the system. Obviously water expands when it freezes, and we end up with cracked pipes, cracked fittings, cracked taps. The next time you come to run your van up, you'll find you've got water coming out somewhere. All right, so if you leave all your taps open and drain everything down, including your toilet and your boiler and your water system, all right, you're gonna minimise issues. So in between hot and cold, that way the air can get down both the hot and cold leg of the system. So that's now all draining down nicely, and that's how I would want to leave stuff inside. So what I'm going to do is go outside and start disconnecting things. So what I will do is I'll take away my waste master down here. Okay, I'll stow that away somewhere. Let's say I'm going to empty my toilet and my flush tank. I'm then going to disconnect my my water. All right, so a little trigger down here, give it a little wiggle. Put that in there so you'll know where to find that. You'll see all the water starting draining down from underneath there where we opened those taps earlier. You're then going to turn your gas off, okay, because you're travelling. In fact, I'm going to actually remove this bottle because obviously this is my test bottle, so I'll do that in a second. You'll then stow away your waste masters and your aqua rolls. Some people put them in the shower, stop them rolling around the van, but you'll come up with your own means and ways of doing things, I'm sure. Now my colleague's just given me the nod. He's unplugged the mains lead for me over there. So what I'm going to do is remove my power cable. The idea is not to be walking around with a live cable, all right? So when you get to site, what I would do is I'd plug the van in first, then plug it into the post, and then the other way around when I've finished with it. Okay. that is kind of everything really. We'll look at the motor mover with you when you pick it up, and go through that all with you as well. But at the same time, any questions, you know where we are. Instruction manuals are in there, but we're on the end of the phone more importantly, okay? So look, enjoy using your van, and we look forward to seeing you when you pick it up.